Hello, thank you for coming today and listening to a presentation of mine on how I'm going to explain a little bit more of how the internet works, the underlying infrastructure that keeps us all connected to each other. Um, we've come to really depend on the internet for creativity, commerce, and as well as communication between the different types of people all over the world. Now, it would only make sense to really understand, how that all works together, so that we can perceive what we have today as the internet. Now, when the internet was first formed, it was considered a dumb network, and this was done on purpose. The reason being is at that time there was already splintered networks between different universities that had to coexist and communicate. And so they developed an internet protocol that was very simple and just had a very simple job: get them to communicate, and get them to communicate as fast as possible. That's how it became a dumb network. The network itself has no idea what it's transforming. That is left up to the users on the end. If I want to email, I get my email. If I want to go to Google, I go to Google. The internet itself has no idea between the different types of data that's going back and forth. Now, this has advantages and disadvantages. The advantages is what we've come to see in what's called a neutral network. No type of data is discriminated against versus any type of data. Anybody can be a movie star on YouTube just because they have just as access to the content as does any major video production site. The downside is that since it has no way to discriminate between data, it's an open network as well, in that we receive a lot of viruses that attack everybody's computers, because just as easily as I can get that website, I can easily get a virus. And so we try to put up antivirus protections and other things called firewalls to protect ourselves against those things. But it's good to understand that to protect yourself, you understand why it's happening. Now, this was described by a gentleman named David Talbot as why the internet is broken. You can see him at technologyreview.com. He explained that because of the way it's currently set up, that the internet itself will just break one day because of such an open network that anybody can tear it down if they wish. Now, moving on to really what is the nuts and bolts of how the internet works. Now, we understand it's a very simple network that's meant to connect different networks as easily and quickly as possible. Now, the internet itself can be considered like a highway. All types of highways connecting different people to different addresses, getting someone to one place as fast as they can. Now, on highways, there are things called exits. You see the exit you want, you leave, and you go on to your final destination. In the internet, you have what's called IP addresses. And everybody has an IP address. Your computer, your cell phone, anything that connects to the net will have its own IP address to keep itself separate. It's so it knows, that email knows to go to this IP address versus somebody else's. Everybody is unique on the internet. Now, with these IP addresses, they are routed by hardware called routers. Routers, quite literally, when it receives this type of data, sends it along to the next router or its destination in the quickest way possible. And so the network is made up of a bunch of routers that are connected to a major, what's called backbone, that essentially funnel to its final destination. Now, How Stuff Works was a great source on this, as they had detailed examples about how this all works together at howstuffworks.com. And then finally, what's the future? Where are we evolving? Where are we going? Now, we all have a unique IP address, and this is set up by a protocol called IP version 4. There are about 4 billion addresses available in this spec. That sounds like a big number, but according to an article by searchandgo.com, this will be a great limiter. As more and more people get on the net, there'll be fewer addresses, just like real estate or property. And so there's something called Internet 2, which part of Internet 2 will be the IP version 6, which will have trillions of addresses available so that everybody could have their own unique address on the network. Internet 2 is a very high-speed connection, about 10 gigabits. Right now, most people are used to about 4 or 5 megabits if they're on if they're on broadband, or just 56 kilobits if they're on dial-up. I mean, this is a huge amount of speed increase. So with this huge speed, you'll be able to get video on demand and all these other high media-rich content that we enjoy on TV, but we haven't really been able to see on the internet quite yet. So in conclusion, this was kind of give a brief overview about how the internet came to be, how it works, and where it's going. As we're all part of the internet, it'll be very interesting to see how, along with the internet evolves, we see how man evolves to coexist with this huge network that we have created. Thank you very much.